Your favorite Haitian siblings are about to talk about the faith, TV shows, and experiences that made them who they are today. We're your hosts, Loving Kindness, pronouns they, them, she, her, and Perpetua, pronouns she, her. Let's dive into TV trauma and truth.
And here we are. Another day, another vibe check.
We're going to check in. So far for the month of February, what's a consolation and what is a desolation? We're a couple weeks into this thing.
We're 1 week into this thing.
Oh,
The 8th day.
I guess,
as it
yeah.
says in the Bible.
We are only 1 week into this thing.
So close.
Oh, gosh.
You're like, it's March 1st. But when this airs, we will be several weeks. If not, February will be over. I think, when this airs.
Okay.
Consolation and desolation. So far in February, consolation has been a lot of community time. So this month is my birth month, and my gift to myself, in collaboration with others, is quality time spent with individuals and groups that I am intimate with. So I have been creating that time and having a lot of beautiful, intentional time with loved ones over here. And it's going to continue as February unfolds. And it's happy making. Very consoling. Desolation. It's been hard to focus, for sure. It's been hard to focus on school and personal projects that have deadlines for real. And I've just been needing a lot. This isn't really desolation, this part, but I've been needing a lot of rest, which is like important. But that means I'm not doing the other things that I want to do as well. So it's tough to find that balance. And then that's the other thing that is the struggle of this quality time gift, is that it is time. It's a lot of time, and I was hesitant to do it. I had the idea like in mid-January. I was hesitant to do it because it would mean a lot of other things would have to step to the side to make time with people in that way. But I'm figuring out the balance. And the balance might mean there is no balance for a month as I continue to, make the time to spend with people and also take care of myself. So the desolation part of that is that I just have projects that I really need and want to work on, and just haven't been able to have enough either energy or focus to tackle them because of everything else going on. It's not like I'm like in a general state of lethargy, really. It's just like that energy and that energy is going other places. The focus is just like always just rough. But yeah, that's where I am. How about you? Where are you? What is bringing you consolation and desolation thus far in February?
I'm consoled by some time that I got to take away from the cold and the snow in Boston. I traveled to the Caribbean, to the Cayman Islands for almost a week recently. And it's not burning hot weather over there, but I'll take 60s and windy for sure. We did have a couple nice beach days with warmer weather, and it's just nice to get away. There's always, when the immediacy of your life is in front of you all the time, especially as someone who works from home, part of my week, everything that's got to get done is right in front of you. So it was nice to just get that out of view for a bit. The wintertime is for relaxing, and if you can't do it at home, you got to try to do it somewhere else. The wintertime is for like turning inward and hibernating and gaining your energy back for the spring and summer, which I can't say I had been doing up until this point. So I'm glad that I got a chance to leave. And I have come back refreshed. I needed also some time alone and some time, like, just to myself and not committed actually to many projects that are creative and life-giving, but you need energy to do them. So I needed another form of rest to come back ready to tackle all of life's exciting things. So that consoled me. Um, something is a bit desolating in nature is, well, I think it's just hard for me to continue to face the reality that there are people out there, particularly in the US, who just like selfishly only want to take care of themselves. We're in a moment in our society and our history right now where it's so important to care for one another. When you come face to face, whether it's just through comments online or overhearing a conversation with the truth for some people that like they are only concerned with their own, and that in a sense that doesn't even mean they're very concerned. That can be a hard thing to swallow. And you gotta leave room for that because it is a truth and it's their truth, and like how we move on from or move towards a society of collective care when people like that exist is something that I take to prayer a lot. And I just got to remember that, I'm doing my part by just really committing constantly, even when it's hard, even when I feel like giving into the base parts of me, to being a good person. But it is tempting to give into despair when those signs of lack of care are in front of
Very real.
you. Yeah,
Thank you for sharing. Thanks for checking in.
anytime. That's what siblings do.
So now we are going to dive into today's topic for this what you're watching and break down Wicked for Good. This
Oh, yeah.
yeah, combo has been on deck for a while, and much like the movie itself, this convo is so jam-packed that we're actually going to break it into two parts. In today's episode, part one, we'll do our deep dives into the characters and their motivations. And next week in part two, we'll talk about some themes and do an analysis of the soundtrack, including rating each song using the classic TV Trauma Truth Yap, Nap, Gap rating system. As Oscar season approaches, from which Wicked for Good has been entirely shut out of, we thought it resident to include it in our podcast if the Academy isn't going to include it in any of their nominations.
The good news is the BAFTAs nominated the film for 2 production awards, Best Costume Design and Best Makeup and Hair.
Based.
Best. I don't know why that came out like that, sorry. But yes, very significant snubs from the BAFTAs, obviously, but also all of the Oscars. And considering the significant number of nominations it received for last film, and especially in the performance categories, this is really some shocking stuff. But we can offer a little bit of context on that. After we first offer a little bit of context, I think for our path to Wicked, which I think starts with me. I was introduced to Wicked, the stage musical, by a member of our theater production or like directing team in high school. And I was getting some rides home after some difficult changes in post rehearsal transportation from the director in the final weeks leading up to our spring debut. And he put on this track from Wicked, the soundtrack that he thought I would really enjoy. And you never forget the first time you hear Defying Gravity. And I definitely don't. It was in the car, we're on our way home, it's dark out, and the way that this track just like soars, truly soars, just like the character Elphaba does in the musical during this pivotal scene and song, had me like flying out of my body in the back seat of this man's car. I was completely overcome with amazement, and I spent the rest of that spring and into my summer vacation just like completely diving into the world of Wicked as it existed on YouTube. Wicked at that point had only been out on Broadway for 6 years. So there were a handful of actresses who had played Elphaba up to that point. Idina Menzel, Shoshana Bean, Eden Espinosa, maybe a couple others, but those were the ones that I really gravitated to when I was watching things online. And in watching things online and playing the soundtrack often, I think I attracted Loving into the mix. So Wicked's been a part of my life ever since.
It's true. I was an impressionable young child at the time. You were how old? This is your
17 going on 18.
okay. So I was 13 going on 14. I was 13 going on 14. And yeah, you were listening to Wicked a lot.
I was.
So it was just around all the time. And
Yeah, I found it through Pandora. So, like a Pandora station that was set to define gravity would introduce me to other musicals that I hadn't heard of or musicals I had. And then eventually it would hit on another track from the musical. And that's how that was my can't pay for, can't afford the soundtrack way of
mhm,
getting the soundtrack.
kids today, they'll never know.
No, they won't. Maybe they will.
Maybe they will. Time. I don't really remember like the day Wicked came home, or things like that. But I remember I don't know if I ever fully sat down and watched the entire musical with you. I
Yeah, I do remember this. So, shouts out to the bootleggers because it's the only way that little poppers like us could access the theater. But somebody had recorded the film and uploaded it into parts on YouTube. Recorded the film, recorded the stage musical, uploaded it into parts on YouTube, and we grabbed our little dining room chairs, and brought them into our mom's room. She was the one who at the time had like the smart TV in the room, so we like used an HDMI cord, plugged the computer in, and watched that way.
and who could say if we were changed for the better?
But we
But
can say that we were changed for good.
mhm. Yeah, great story, great musical, I had a great time. The music, I just remember we were going hard on the duets for a really long time. Oh, I loved "What Is This Feeling?" "What Is This Feeling?"
Yeah,
was
that was a favorite of ours to do together.
yeah, we would just consistently sing that. So, yeah, it's, like, just baked into my brain. That's, like, core memory status is "What Is This Feeling?"
Yeah, I do feel like should I be so unfortunate as to be a dementia patient, I'm gonna like remember maybe like the name of my husband and then also every beat on the Wicked soundtrack.
Mhm.
And now both versions, both the stage Broadway soundtrack and the film.
I mean, dementia-wise, the film probably wouldn't stick in there, but
Okay, that's fair. Yeah, it doesn't. But you know what? If I'm if it's a long time before I'm a dementia patient, maybe so. Or maybe I confuse the 2. Check
yeah,
in 70 years, guys.
I'll check in, we'll check in. That's right. Now if you're listening, you're locked into the pod for 70 years.
That's
We're gonna
right, you
check
didn't
in.
know.
So that's our personal histories with Wicked, but Perpetua, what about people who have no idea what happens in Wicked? What about those people who are living under rocks for the past 2 to 20 years?
I always care about those people, so I'm happy to catch you up on what's good about Wicked Part 2. Wicked for Good. So it came out in November 2025, and it is the sequel to Wicked, which came out Thanksgiving of 2024. And it adapts the second act, the second half of the stage musical, which came out in 2003. And of course, the stage musical is loosely based off of Gregory Maguire's novel reimagining from 1995 of The Wonderful Wizard of Oz, the novel from 1900, and its 1939 film adaptation. Talk about Inception. The movie was directed by John M. Chu. The screenplay was by Winnie Holtzman and Dana Fox. The music for the film was by John Powell and Stephen Schwartz. The movie stars Ariana Grande Butera as Glinda, Cynthia Erivo as Elphaba, Jonathan Bailey as Fiero, Ethan Slater as Bach, Marissa Bodie as Nessa Rose, Michelle Yeoh as Madame Morrible, and Jeff Goldblum as the Wizard. So the movie is set in the land of Oz before and during the events of The Wonderful Wizard of Oz. And the film follows Elphaba and Glinda in their new identities as the Wicked Witch of the West and Glinda the Good. The hijinks and devastating plot points ensue. We're all crying by the end, as is the way with Wicked.
That was incredibly brief. Okay. Devastating plot points ensue. I didn't see that coming.
Okay, so
The character.
let's get into the characters and what they do, what all these devastating plot points are even about. When we encounter Glinda at the start of the movie, she is nestling quite well into her role as Glinda the Good. It's suggested, I think, that it's been like several months since the events of Wicked, which had Elphaba and Glinda going their separate ways. Elphaba choosing to be kind of a fugitive in the land of Oz for standing up for what was right, and Glinda capitulating to the machine and hopefully perhaps trying to change things from within. So it's been a few months, and we see Glinda setting into her role, and she's enjoying it. She's enjoying the pomp and circumstance that comes with taking on this government role. I think that is simply the name of her role, is the Good. And Fiero has also joined the government ranks by being in the military, and he's ascended to become the captain of the guard. He is crowned as such. When we are witnessing them, on the other side of things, we see Elphaba nestling into her role as the Wicked Witch of the West and fugitive in the land of Oz. She's got her little wooded sanctuary where she is making plans, collecting propaganda to just track how the people are identifying her and to track the movements of the wizard to see how she can expose him for the fraud that he is to the citizens of Oz. And she is very hopeful, as we hear in the opening track that has been changed lyrically to allow for a little more recap and exposition. We hear that she's hoping all of Oz will applaud once she has revealed that the wizard is a fraud. And I really think that that speaks to one of the things that I think is really interesting about Elphaba that I got a sense of in the stage musical, but I think is really hammered home with Cynthia Erivo's acting in the film. But I'll say that that thing is, I think Elphaba, she is seeking attention just as much as she is seeking to right a social wrong. Elphaba has been overlooked for very long, and she placed all of her hopes and all of her dreams into the imaginary hands of the wizard. And when he lets her down so astoundingly, she's desperate to get that recognition from anyone else. And she had been looking for it from the wizard when she couldn't get it from her rude ass father. And when she didn't get any support from her sister, who in fact needed a lot of emotional and physical support. So you've got this very wounded character who understands keenly what it means to be served injustice, but still has blind spots of her own, and that the the slope gets real slippery and she slides down it real fast in part 2, which I think is kind of one of the underlying themes of the movie. The slope is slippery and you can slide down it fast.
I think it's interesting what you said about Alphabet. I never actually saw it that way. Like you said that you saw it from the musical and how it's even clearer in the film that a part of her is seeking attention. I mean, like, the fact that she names it "Ain't No Good Deed" should have probably been clue enough. But I was just like, "Yeah, I mean, the wizard's a dick." And I guess it's like she does have a righteous cause, like you're saying, but part of it is selfishly sought after. I just never thought about the depths to which it was selfishly motivated because of, like, him being truly, like, an animal abuser, and it's, like, even worse than our world, right? Because like, they talk and, like, uh, which I don't know if we're here yet exactly, but it did bring me to a very specific thought. I was like, "Is everybody in Oz a vegetarian, or are things just crazy in the cafeterias?"
Holy
Oh,
macaroni!
shiz. I
You're asking the right questions. Maybe Gregory
um,
Maguire's novel. I feel like the novel would answer those questions, but
yes,
I have gotten enough information from people closest to me and not closest to me who've read this book to
yeah,
know that I want only the musical version in my
yeah.
head.
Listen, if we know that Elphaba's vulvic hair is purple, then we better get the answers to what are they eating.
That
What
novel
Fiero's
is
eating. Mm.
wild. Whoa. Okay. Labeled E for explicit.
But yeah, I didn't think too much about any selfish reasons because her cause was so righteous that I was like, "You could be selfishly motivated all you want. This man needs to go. This
Yeah,
man needs
which
to go."
I think that's what allows many things that have happened in history, and maybe they're even happening now, to happen when it becomes this, like, by any means necessary, or any motivation can be mixed in with the purest of motivations. But I've always identified very strongly with Elphaba's character, and it's because I have gone through the youngest periods of my life feeling unseen, and also keenly feeling the impacts and understanding the impacts of injustice. And one of the tenets of injustice is not seeing certain groups of people for who they are, which is humans with dignity, and then treating them poorly as a result. So those two ideas or feelings are like really intertwined, but you have to recognize with the help of like wise discernment when when what you're doing is about you and when it's about everyone, including you. That can be a hard thing to recognize, especially if you're reeling from a disappointment as large as Alphabas at the end of Wicked Part 1, at the end of Act 1 of Wicked. Can be very difficult to keep your eyes on the prize of freeing the animals because now she personally has skin in the game and is kind of out for revenge.
Yeah, I mean, I totally see how it can be distorted, especially in the real world. But I just feel like it never gets distorted. Like, she's like, "I'm gonna be," no good deed is basically her being like, "I will never do a good deed again. I am the villain. I will do whatever it takes." And then even in the movie, she says, "You asked me, what I wanted, and I didn't know, but now I do, and it's to fight you until the day I die. It's personal, right? It's personal.
First.
But it works. I think it works. But all that being said, what does she then do? Sacrifice her life in Oz to go run off, right, with the arrow.
Yes, but that's, I think, because she's in between those 2 things, between promising that she will fight the wizard till the day she dies, and when she leaves Oz with Fiyero,
She traps the
a
girl in the
lot of
cellar and demands her shoes back.
and also experiences the switch up personally of a lifetime with Fiyero revealing the depths of his love and care for her, and realizing, perhaps for the first time in her life, that she, like, has something to lose. Her life generally, she would have dug the hole deeper and deeper and for herself and probably, like, swirled in a misery, kind of self-made misery while she also fought the wizard because it was, like, her zeroed in, locked in goal. But she discovered that she had a life worth living when Fiyero was like, "I will leave all of this for you," which love Glinda as Elphaba did, but Glinda didn't do that.
Right.
At no point when it counted. So that for her was like, okay, you know what? Like, I really got to look at the bigger picture because I think that Elphaba was missing the forest for the trees. All the puns intended, given that she's living in the forest and, in fact, in a tree. But I think that she was missing the bigger picture when she was pushing this personal vendetta. She was using a social cause as, I don't even think intentionally, I would say definitely not, but as cover for, like, licking her personal wounds, and that's
Yeah.
how things got kinda messy. I'm committed, I think, especially as I've gone on my own growth journey to, like, highlighting that part of Elphaba's character because she obviously is a laudable hero in many respects and is a fantastic protagonist. The entire story of Wicked is so satisfying. I get chills every time. Doesn't matter if I know what's coming. It's just really amazing. And Elphaba's characterization has a lot to do with that. But she has her flaws too. It's not like, you know, Elphaba's good. Elphaba's labeled as wicked, but she's really good. And Glinda's labeled as good, but she's really wicked. There's a lot of good and wickedness to be had on either side. And it's, even though Fiyero was the one who initiated the the departure and relationship with Glinda and ran off with Elphaba, like, I wouldn't say that Elphaba was entirely cute about the whole thing either. Yeah, exactly. Nothing's shaking their head, no. And yeah. So, when you're mixing, like, it's just an interesting thing. The story is also a, a visual of how the, like, large scale social world and its problems do not negate your personal life. And your personal life is also very impacted by what's happening in the world large scale. When this first movie came out, we were just just off of the 2024 presidential election in the US, and much of the country was reeling from Kamala Harris's loss and Donald Trump's win. And in with part two's release a full year later, we had seen the country descend into a very loud version of fascism versus the quiet version that had characterized the country for several decades leading up to this point. And so our the movie was kind of paralleling our reality in that way. People are going to see this movie. That's a very kind of, like, frivolous, if you will, aspect of personal life, but we're also digesting what's happening in our world socially while we do that.
Well, it's hard when people are like, "The wizard's the hero." It's like, we can see the movie how we want, but we're watching 2 different movies. Yeah.
No one is doing, no, I think that very few people in the real world agree that the wizard was the hero. But the wizard in the movie himself was trying to explain to Elphaba in For Good that something that the people will never do is believe her because they don't want to. And kind of goes to what was feeding some of my desolation that I referred to earlier. There are some people who don't want to hear anything more than what they've heard. Maybe they've heard too many truths, too many lies, and they just decide the last thing they heard is the thing that they're sticking with. There could be a number of reasons why they won't believe, but they won't. And the wizard uses that to his advantage constantly and is like a slithering snake in that he's just trying to get and wear Elphaba down and get her to go along with his scheme because it's easier than suffering for the truth.
Let's talk about the wizard and the deal he makes with Alphaba. He frees the monkeys. She says, animal rights. And, animal rights means no more needs for spies, no more need for spies, free the monkeys. Then history reveals that a bunch of animals are locked up in the wizard's prison. And the wizard says some animals can't be trusted. So, do we think that the wizard was going to lock up more animals, just keep those animals locked up? Where was it going to begin? Where was it going to end with the wizard? What do we think his deal was moving forward? Because he made this deal with Alfie. Was he going to, yeah, I wonder if it was like, I'm going to somehow try and keep, I feel like he was going to pivot. I feel like he was going to pivot his plan. I don't know what it was going to be, but he was like, I need Alphaba on my side. I think he really did believe that. He wanted her power on his side. He says in the movie, he's like, with you on my side, like I won't need to create this. I don't need to villainize the animal if I have you on my side. What did that mean to the wizard? I don't know. But there's a plan there.
Yeah. And it was
There's a
clear
plan
that when he
there.
mumbled to Madame Morrible after everything went wrong, that he had been disgruntled. That's not the only time that he was clear he was disgruntled, but that's one of the times it was clear he was disgruntled that he had to sacrifice his monkey spies for the sake of having Elphaba on his side when she agreed to his plan.
Yeah. And he did not agree right away. I'll tell you that. He hems and haws for a
Now,
second.
he had some why,
After
God,
some.
why looks to the sky. It could be that the animals who were in his prison, because one of the prisoners was Dr. Dillamond, these animals he's saying couldn't be trusted were ones who were especially vocal about Oz's past, like they were trying to suppress anything that suggested there's a positive history of life in Oz with animals, and perhaps also with the wizard, perhaps also a negative view of the wizard as kind of the leader of Oz.
Mhm.
Could have been that he just was like, these guys are permanent prisoners because once they get their voice back, my plan's over. And all the other animals he has scared into submission and they'll do whatever. But if I'm to make a headcanon up right now, that's what I would say is was the extent, especially if he had to pivot for the sake of Alpha being on his team, but maybe only for a temporary time. Maybe once he'd also brainwashed Alphaba into feeling welcome and belonged and part of the team, he would have worn her down into using her magic to commit even more unspeakable acts that would just continue to subjugate the animals. And the very reason why she had flown out a window in the first place would have disappeared in her mind. And now she would have been a part of the scheme. But because Chistery bravely pointed out that the animals were behind the door, Alphaba was able to get the rose-colored glasses off of her eyes and see the wizard once more for who he is. Because this is something I've been wanting to talk about, which is that the wizard, after he says that some of these animals can't be trusted, he insists quietly that he's not a bad man. And Elphaba roars back, "Yes, you are." And that really struck me because I'm asking myself, is the wizard saying that genuinely? Does he really think that he's not a bad man? Does he really think that his scheme and goals here are good? Or is he just saying it knowing full well that it's hollow, but that he thinks that what's not so bad is just simply wanting to, be recognized or have money and accolades? And as a person of faith who believes in the inherent dignity of every person, but also that like we all are naturally good, born good, like, can you drain yourself of all your goodness and be left with zero and then have to go find it somewhere to start again as a good
Mhm.
person? When people can do unspeakable things, acts of horror, and degrade other people's lives, are they only doing bad things or are they bad themselves? Have they given themselves over to a badness that they now identify with? It's a lot to think about in the movie theater, but it is what I was thinking about.
I have thoughts, great ponderings, deep. As far as the draining, don't think you can fully go to 0. I think that's where, like, the Holy Spirit kicks in, and it's the gift that we're all, you know, given in our souls. I think ultimately, if you were to have to go out to find it, it would be more of like a kindling of the spark that already lives within you. But off of what you were asking about the wizard's self-perception, I think I don't know that he was thinking what I'm doing is good, but I think he might think what I'm doing is natural.
Mm,
Um, I
that
think
hit me
especially
too.
Mhm.
Wow.
As we get older, we learn the truth that there are many hard things and compromises that we have to make in our life for different reasons in different spheres of life. The basic concept of the sunny day and the rainy day. You can't always live in either, right? And I think for the wizard, he's like, this is just one of those hard things that someone has to do. And I'm someone. He's like, we learn in the first movie, he's like, we need unity in Oz, is his belief. We need unity in Oz, and for that, we need to be unified against a common enemy. I've chosen the animals.
That's just the way of things.
That's just the way of things. This is what society needs. Society looks to me ever since I came up in a balloon and made a bunch of false promises. And so, yeah, this is his, like you said, way to keep grasp on power. That's the part of it. That's the selfish motivation is, if you believe Oz needs unity, why do you also believe that you're the one who needs to unify it? This is the
Because he
way you've
probably felt the
chosen.
pressure. People were waiting for this foretold one.
Mhm.
And under pressure, some people will do crazy things.
So, the wizard, I imagine, believes he's probably being morally neutral, and it's just like, "This is a thing that just has to happen." And so I like to believe that he could be more interesting and that when Elphaba's on his side, that what he does is, like, create some new kind of 'cause, like, he's gonna use and manipulate her power for something, right? And I like to believe that it's something creative and new and unique. But, I mean, he's already invested a lot of time in the subjugation of animals.
Yeah.
And so it's like, if it ain't broke, keep subjugating animals.
Mhm.
You know? Because you point out, like, yeah, monuments have been torn down, like, we see the, like, I don't know, bison pulling the bricks at the beginning of the movie. Like, we are far down the path of the subjugation here. So, it's like, even if he wants to turn it around, de jure, the de facto consensus is still gonna be like, people are you've already instilled this, like, mistrust and mistrust of animals into people and inferior a superiority complex into people over animals. So, off that alone, it's, like, really hard work to turn back
Mhm.
and also not in the best interest of the wizard himself, unless he's really creative with what he wants to do with Elpha's power, which would be great. I mean, either way, he wants to manipulate her, so not great, but, you know, at least leaving the animals alone would be great. Next thing you know, we're having a bison pork chop for dinner. Again, what are they eating in Oz? I'm just saying.
Gregory
I'm
Maguire,
confused.
please answer. I've got questions about Glinda.
Yeah, I was like, shall we spend some time on good old Glinda?
Yeah. You know, it's I love what the movies have done. They've like allowed more room for the nuances of the story to breathe and to reveal themselves. So it just like for ponderous people like ourselves creates more opportunity for us to like dive deeper into certain themes and aspects of the film. And one of those things is like the depth of Glinda's naivete is like it was staggering. And then I've also like come face to face with some of that in real life, given our current climate. And it's just crazy how these two things have mirrored each other in the time, like at the same time. But Glinda's really like, she's dumb. Her
And
privilege and her encapsulation and
in
also her desire to be seen has blinded her to the truth.
I don't buy in. I don't buy in how dumb the second
I
movie
know you don't. Tell us more about that.
makes me will need to believe. And granted, I did not rewatch the first movie, at least not in its entirety. I did immediately start the first movie after I finished the second movie and watch through like the arrival at Shez. Glinda comes off as vapid and naive, of course, and but she's also quite cunning in the first movie to the effect of getting what she wants. So the way that she comes off in the first movie makes her dim-wittedness in the second movie just absolutely egregious and willful. It's willful stuff. Like, he's like, "Damn, crazy I was mad at you, and then your sister died the next day." After I brought it up to Madame Morrible that they should say your sister is in danger. Coincidence?
Coincidence.
And then she approaches Madame Morrible like, I've been starting to think that maybe you had something to do with this." And I'm like, "This woman is an idiot." Like, I felt like Tony Stark on Titan dealing with the Guardians. Like, I you can't see my face unless we clip this. But I just can't believe it. Like, she comes off like mean, rude, shallow, vapid, but she does not come off as a complete dolt in the first one. She comes off like a cunning, mean girl who knows how to use society's perception and her place of privilege against the world around her. So for movie 2, more so than act 2 of the stage musical, because like they really stretch things out like taffy in the movie in ways that I think reveal glaring, not plot holes, but like they shine too close a light on on the characterization that then makes things make even less sense. I'm thinking also of the Cowardly Lion, who never had a good reason in the musical for being against Elphaba, and then they gave him a whole monologue. Thankfully, we're getting Coleman Domingo more work. That's the only positive I saw out of that, but giving the Cowardly Lion a whole monologue to emphasize his poor rationale at being mad at Elphaba, very unrelatable stuff, was a silly choice, in my humble opinion. And similar with Glinda, like, now you're giving her things to do and witness that are that require her to be incredibly dumb if she's going to go through with these things. For me, as I've shared with you before, is like the ending of the movie when she's witnessing Elphaba die through shadows, which is, beautifully done. It's beautiful, like, representation of how it's done on the stage. But on the stage, Glinda does not see Elphaba die. So she just hears, like, Elphaba says her goodbye, and they're parting, even if it's not like totally clear that it's goodbye, it's giving goodbye. If someone's saying for good to me, I'd be like, "Am I gonna see you again?" But she does not witness the Elphaba's death on the stage. But here she's watching and is present for immediately after because she now believes that Elphaba can be melted by water. I'm like,
Your water?
I'm blinking slowly in in, I
It's
don't know,
lyrically
annoyance.
factual.
Yes, well, I were meant to believe that, like, so in the book, Elphaba is allergic to water,
Yes.
but that is not carried over into the movie or the stage play.
At least not explicitly. We don't really
Not
know.
explicitly. But it doesn't matter. In the stage play, it doesn't matter because it's not given so much time and, like, we don't witness it, We don't see the stuff with the water. Like, none of our characters see it. No one's trying to interact with Elphaba afterwards except Fiero, who comes and grabs her from the trapdoor. So stage play beautifully skips over the stuff that would make you be like, "Wait a second." Whereas the movie is shining this light where you're like, "What?" So Glinda actually believes that the water can melt her, and so it's like, so now you're telling me, if you're giving me the caveat that it's pure water, what the hell are we showering with that shiz? You know what I mean? I'm like,
Yeah, I know. I've asked myself the same question.
so, they put just a little bit of mud in it so that, like, it's not gonna melt any of their students. Like, what's going on? Like, it's not giving sense. If the movie wanted to go this route, they should have made her allergic to water in the movie. But those homies arrived by boat. And yeah, you got me. Lake water, probably not the most pure. But, like, yeah, Glinda is not. I refuse. The second movie demands me to believe Glinda is that stupid, and I refuse to accept that. I accept the version where she's choosing all this because is what she wants, and she's making that conscious decision, which is kind of said in the beginning of the movie when Fiero's like, "You're doing this because you can't resist it." And then she's like, "So what if I am? Who could?" And then all sexy like, he's like, "You know who could. Who did?" And I was like, "Ooh, Jay Bayleaf. You know who could." Mm, mm, mm.
So my take on I'll grant you this. I've tried. I've tried to do a lot of mental gymnastics to figure out how we explain away Glinda's special brand of idiocy around the melting, and I don't know. But as for the rest of her story in For Good, I think that she's someone who puts a lot of trust in authority. She knows how to flit in and out of situations and manipulate them to get what she wants out of them. And I think that she did that too when she ascended to this like governmental space as the like face of hope for Oz. And she got big room, nice closet, many shoes and dresses, staff. She just gets to write that everything is good, sign off on it, and then like have the wedding of her dreams to the person she loves. And she can leave everything else to the other people. She misses Elphaba and she misses the authentic relationship that she could have with her. But she tells Fiero, can't you see she doesn't want to be found? And she's just trying to live in the moment with what she has, which she's enjoying. And when things start to go sideways,
And would you wanna be found if you're gonna be arrested and drowned? Anyway,
no.
it's
But,
like
you know, we talked about Elphaba's wants a
she just wanna
little
be
bit.
found. She just wanna be found. We're here offering her big hugs and kisses if she comes back, but just wanna be found. That's the issue here.
Glinda is trying to ignore the rumbles of truth. Her relationship with Elphaba has changed her, and it did change her for good. We needed some final pushes that happened in the sequel in order for us to really see those changes be enacted. But meeting Elphaba and realizing that there's like somebody who is willing to see her allowed her to see Elphaba back. And when you even get a glimpse at truth, you can't ever ignore it how much you try to, no matter how much you try to. So, yes, she tells Fiero, I can't resist this. Who could? But she has that break in her song, thank goodness, where she ponders and asks aloud, what is the point of all of this if I don't get to be myself with the people I love? And if the people I love are mad at me? If I'm getting all of this stuff that I've ever wanted and I'm being seen as good, why do I still feel empty? And she keeps trying to stuff that emptiness down throughout the movie. And the trust that she has in the authorities, she's increasingly becoming aware is misplaced. But she doesn't want to face what that means because she has a lot to lose. She likes the creature comforts, she likes the privileges that come with capitulating. And she does not want to see what the hardship looks like. But then she loses it all and has to live with hardship anyway and go through it alone, which is the worst way to go through hardship. At the end, when everyone she was ever truly close to is gone, and it's just her and a battered, bruised Oz at the end.
I will say that's rough. I did feel for her at the end of the movie because she is finally taking accountability and not only taking accountability, but pushing forward real change
Hmm.
very swiftly and actively, which she had the power to do all along. Um, for her to then be kind of left emotionally alone at the end of that and charged with all this responsibility, that's a lot. That's a lot.
It's a lot.
And like there is no one around that she can trust. She's surrounded by yes people who share who have not gone through the same growth that she has in the last 20 minutes. So it's really on her to keep her head straight if she only has herself and like the voice of Elphaba in her head. But, you know, and it's not helpful that she has Madame Morrible in a prison downstairs because You always end up going to visit your prisoner because they knew you in the before times and you trusted their wisdom, so now you're gonna go seek their wisdom a little bit, even though you don't really trust them, but they're there, and you don't have anyone you can trust.
Listen, that's biblical.
Listen, listen.
That's literally the story of Joseph.
Right, except Joseph's good.
Yeah.
Like, yes, but Joseph's good. I was thinking of other people like Loki.
Yeah.
But,
It's a well-worn, time-honored
yeah,
story.
or Peter Hale.
Wow.
Catch us on our Teen Wolf First Impressions pod coming soon
Mhm.
to a podcast streamer near you.
Okay, who we haven't talked about yet are Bach and Nessa Rose, who I think are like the examples of what's happening in the world that Elphaba is trying to change. So we end up moving to Nessa Rose when Elphaba decides that she needs her sister's help to make the changes that she wants to see happen in Oz. Her sister's help to reveal the wizard for the fraud that he is. And we see that Nessa is now the governor of Munchkinland. She's taken over after her father died of a a heart attack, like fueled by shame, I guess. Don't like that man. And Nessa Rose has kept Bach captive in the relationship that they had from school. And he is like her page slash romantic partner. It's very eerie. If I stop for like more than 2 seconds to think about what might be going on in that relationship, I get the heebie jeebies. Vanessa Rose, she certainly paints herself as the victim, but what she even admits when she's singing her song, Wicked Witch of the East, is that she is, in fact, no better than the rest, down to the final moment. And she clings to Bach desperately because he is really only a symbol. Like, he's the first person who gives her any kind of attention, and she doesn't care what the motivations for that attention are. Someone who's not overbearing like her father, or who's, volatile and surprising like her sister and embarrassing to her like her sister, who's handsome in her eyes and who just seems kind and loving. And she will not let that go no matter what. And you see immediately in the movie, like, what the costs of that tight fist are. She magically clenches her hands around Bach's heart. And the only way to save him is to turn him into a tin man with no heart. And we see really just how far Bach's love for anyone was able to go, because a deleted scene from the first movie was a conversation between Elphaba and Bach, where Bach, Elphaba rather, suggests that Bach be a little more honest with himself and with Nessa Rose about his feelings, and that he has more for Glinda than he ever did for Nessa. And Bach deflects by saying the pot is calling the kettle black because Elphaba clearly has feelings for Fiyero. And that's where that's left. But that moment, I always get chills in the song Dancing Through Life when Bach just decides he's going to lean in because he had a moment of feeling stung by watching Glinda and Fiyero kiss. He's going to lean into whatever attraction Nessa Rose feels for him in that moment because it makes him feel better than the disappointment he just witnessed. But he has no idea what he's just started. And at any point, he could have said no. And by the time he decides, I'm going to call it quits, it's far too late. You could say, given that Bach had taken such a shining to Glinda, that they kind of mirror each other in this way. There were so many times, too, that Glinda could have walked away from all of it or made a different choice. And it's not until it's too late does she decide that, goodness, and pursuing it is worth the effort. And I really liked Elphaba standing up to her sister at the end to say, I have done everything I could for you, and it's never been enough. And just she says goodbye, and it doesn't mean that she doesn't love her sister, but she is putting up this, like, straight up boundary and saying, like, "You have made your bed, and I have fixed your last mess, and I'm out." I always feel empowered when I see that moment, and I think Nessa Rose deserved every single thing that she got. She was hurt by her father in a way that was very different from Elphaba, but hurt all the same, I think. 'Cause she was not ever given the chance to understand the agency she really does have in the world, and she was never told no, so no is an incomprehensible thing for this young woman to experience, and we see what the impacts of having never been refused are when it really counts.
So you think she deserved to have a house dropped on her?
Okay, I did say I said she deserved everything that came to her, didn't I? I don't
Hmm.
really mean that. I don't
Which
think she
part?
deserved a house to fall on her.
So that's the main thing that she gets in the film.
Yeah, well, I was meaning more like she got the loneliness she deserved, and, like, given that the thing that had this house fall on her was her, like, wheeling herself around in her chair going, "Bark, bark," in the middle of a storm, like, "Go home, girl."
That is not contextualized enough in this film. What was she doing? She just
I
is
remember thinking the same thing the first time I watched the film. I was like, "Help me understand, like, even the timing, the pacing here, like, how far away from like, how many days have passed since Elphaba left?" I guess it was the same day, because she, like, also heard that Glinda was getting married and went to the wizard. Maybe it was all the same day, but it just struck me as, like, so the moment Bach left the governor's mansion as a Tin Man, like, she's just been wandering the streets ever since.
I don't
Just
have
a
answers.
weird, it's a weird yeah, I don't quite understand the timing, so, I mean, I have to imagine then, like, out loud as I'm thinking about it, I have to think that it didn't she's not wandering the streets for days.
Right,
I'm
but,
just
like,
desperately searching for Bach, but maybe hours?
yeah, you bring up a good point that because he did just leave in the last time we saw him, that is likely the same day that she went after him. When I first saw it, though, the timing does not feel like what happens after she leaves is like Elphaba visits Glinda and like
There's supposed to be a wedding. I guess
did Bach
maybe it's just,
see
like
the wedding announcement on the day of the wedding?
that's what
Like
I'm saying, like, did is that what he did? He saw it the day of the wedding?
like the
This is a
newspaper
very
was like,
pivotal
"By the
day.
way, this is happening today." Like, uh, and like he didn't read the newspaper before today. I just like I don't and he does say like he does give a sense of urgency in his need to go see Glinda. Like I have to tell her before it's too late, but nothing in either watch told me I got to get to her today. Like because this is happening tonight. I didn't see that. I could have missed it both times. It could make sense because I believe the next scene is Elphaba flying to the castle. Or like, we get it from Glinda's perspective. So we cut to Glinda. But it's just not giving same day, editing wise.
It's not giving sense.
Well, and so then the
But
next
if
time we
we're
see
to
like 30 minutes later is like in the streets going, "Bak, bak." She didn't even leave the house in the scene we last saw her in. So it's like, we're just
yeah, she just
really
was
having
sitting
to
in
accept.
our hallway screaming
Yeah.
out his name, so we have to fill in the blanks and think she's gathered herself and decided, "Okay, the next best thing is to go out there and try to find him," and I don't know what, but that's what she was doing, was searching for him. And I think it speaks to no matter how much time had passed, right? Like, there's just no point at which Nessa was like, this guy, I gotta let him go. There was no point. She oppressed an entire people so that she could keep him chained to her side for however much longer.
Right. No sense of what true love could be, which is hard because it's like she did have it in her sister. Like her sister did love her, truly. So,
Yeah, her sister did not. I mean, I'm sure that there was some of her relationship, some of Elphaba's relationship with her sister was fed by the toxic dynamic that flowed between the two of them and their father. But
right.
Elphaba is incredibly genuine. That's something that is shown again and again throughout both films. She loves with her whole heart, and it's like one of the reasons why she would insist on Nessa Rose's independence and reinforce what Nessa was trying to what she was trying to get for herself. And she just didn't see Nessa Rose experienced Elphaba more like a tool, unfortunately. And because there was an aspect to Elphaba that Elphaba couldn't control that created messes, Nessa just would often feel embarrassed instead of leaning on what a privilege it is to have a sister who stands by her and cares so much for her and develop an empathy for what her sister might be going through. 'Cause certainly Nessa can't control that she can't walk. Not that that's something that's made to be an issue in the film, but there's there's a hole deep inside of her that she longs to fill with, unfortunately, just like
Fuck.
undying attention and not actually, yeah, with Bach. But like nobody can give what this girl is looking for because she does not really love herself as much as I don't know. I don't think she ever really indicated that she loved herself very much, but she can't ask anyone to just like try to fill a black hole. She just would take and take and take. And I can't say that Nessa had much to offer in return because I don't think that Nessa even had a chance to develop a personality. As much as I think she deserved her loneliness at the end of the film, from, it is sad that that's how it all ended up. And it's because she was just like robbed of any opportunity to like stake any kind of claim on her own existence in the world. Her dad was trying to compensate for everything that went wrong with his wife, not even realizing, maybe realizing, but I don't think so, realizing that his wife had also been adulterous. So there were problems even before she had passed away and before she had given birth to Nessa Rose. But he was trying to compensate and he just poured all of his effort into abusing Elphaba and what's the word I'm looking for? Oppressing, repressing,
Stifling.
smothering Nessa Rose. Yeah.
Yeah. Even when Nessa, I mean, Nessa is governor now and has a lot of power and wants to free the animals. It seems. It seems
Yeah,
like
I
she
know.
is
It
not
seemed like,
aligned with their oppression, but she's like, but they'll say that she's just like her sister, and so she can't do it because she
and she has a lifetime of feeling embarrassed by what she thinks her sister represents, which is chaos, disorder. And, I mean, as a child of a government official, there's like a certain role that you're meant to play in society. It's probably hard for her to stand being with somebody who physically manifested as chaotic and disorder and then also had power that could not be controlled on top of that. And like nobody call it power. Like nobody thought of it as such. It was just like she's messy and whatever.
green.
Green. They weren't even gonna let Elphaba go to school. Like, I don't know at what point Dulcibear's, like, at home nannying and governessing, like, wrapped. If she, like, you know, you gotta ask
Listen,
yourself, Madame Morrible, what favors did you do for about, like, she got to go to school, but then everything that happened led to her fleeing Oz. So,
yeah, there's got to be limits to education a bear can provide, or there's not. Either way, are
well,
we eating bears in this world? I just don't know. Once again, curious about
well,
the
are we
diet.
eating bears in this world? Like, in our world, is that a common eat either? Like,
Common? Definitely not. But someone somewhere is, you know, once this,
it's the bunnies. I was like, people be eating rabbit stew, so I felt bad for the bunnies.
once we traversed into eating deer, I just feel like all woodland creatures, you know,
Are
on
on the
limit.
chopping block.
Yeah. I don't know anything about game, so I don't know what the deal is with bears. Somebody from Montana, hit us up.
There are so
Uh,
many other places that bears are. Someone from Montana. Oh god. Okay.
I want to say about Bach. So I was watching after I watched For Good, I watched the beginning of Wicked Part 1, and I was like, "Why are there so many gingers? Why are there so many gingers in this place, in this movie? Like,
In
black gingers,
Munchkinland.
white gingers, Asian gingers?" Yes. I didn't put together that it was in Munchkinland at first. I was just like, "Why are there so many gingers here
Mm.
on the screen?" And then research told me that it turns out that John Chu, the director, wanted to have a specific cultural identity for the Munchkins, and having already cast Ethan Slater as Bach, decided to model him after Ethan Slater, who is a ginger.
No.
So they all look
That's
like
crazy.
him.
Ethan's the god of Munchkinland.
He's the blueprint. What came first, the Ethan or the gingers? It was the Ethan. It was the Ethan. So
That's amazing.
yeah, that is very
With
interesting.
a lot of
And
ginger
as
wigs.
right, a lot of ginger wigs. As an actor, I mean, what a great day for ginger actors to just have so many opportunities based off this one guy who got cast. That's called, busting down the door of representation. Okay. And then also, it might go to my head a little bit if I was like, wow, all of these people were designed after me, were modeled and cast and hair and makeup after what I was born with, you know? So,
Yeah. 'Cause, like, his curl pattern,
great.
like,
Right.
that's what's in everybody's hair. Yeah. Good
So,
for you, Ethan.
you know,
Come on the
good
pod.
for you, Ethan Slater. I agree. Yeah, Ethan Slater, come on the pod. Talk to us about your ginger curls. We want to hear from you.
Well, that covers the characters. We hopefully just briefly touched on Madame Morrible, but what else is there to say? She's
What else is there to say but Madam Morrible, MM, flip it around, WW, Wicked
Wicked
Witch.
Witch. All right, y'all. So we'll be back next week. Yes, next week to talk about Wicked for Good. 1 week sooner than normal to talk about the choice themes in Wicked and to run down the part 2 soundtrack to rate every song with a yap, nap, or gap.
Make sure you subscribe to TV Trauma and Truth on YouTube or Apple Podcasts so you never miss an episode. Follow us on Instagram, Threads, TikTok, and Spill at TV Trauma Truth Pod. Write to us at tvtraumatruthpod@gmail to compare thoughts on Wicked or anything else we've discussed.
We'll be back next week. Until then, maybe don't eat any talking animals.